Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm really wrapping up the LOCOMOTIVE. I know it's been a long journey, but I've made some great progress, learned some excellent things about trains in general, and had awesome support along the way. So thank you all who kind of gave me advice and helped make this possible. One thing that I wanted to bring to your attention in my latest update that I just kind of worked on now was that there were some people that wanted the shunting mode to actually be on its own separate channels and the true remote channel for the wireless slave mode to be on different channels. And the advantage of this gives us a full range of channels for the shunting mode. So what I did is actually within the microcontroller, I'm just showing you quickly what was done. I first maxed the whole thing out. So this is a big microcontroller with a lot of logic. But now, up here, is the actual wireless slave mode is no longer on a channel that the remote control can be on. Instead, it's just an arbitrary X minus 24. So here we have whatever channel we're set to on our slave mode, and then minus 24. So that is what each locomotive sends and reads, which opened up a whole lot of channels for the shunting mode. So now if you have multiple trains, all on shunting modes for example, you can switch between remote channels and drive the multiple trains. So here, the shunting mode is truly on channels 0 or 1 to 8. So you can control them on the remote control using channels 1 through 8. So that was a neat little feature that I just added here. And in addition to that, I threw on a second emergency brake and put it inside this kind of workroom right here. And the emergency brake, the main one, is now up center console here, so everybody can easily access it and it can be used to stop the train. So now this system kind of is more or less in place and functional, which is nice to see. And the last thing that I want to develop is a man overboard system. But before I do that, I want to show you how all this stuff works. So if we hop on into the locomotive here, grab the remote, or we're already holding one. So now I could turn on the remote shunting mode, and as long as the engine's on, you can now flip through channels here. Granted, oh, it's not upside down, perfect. So channel 2, let's say. So I put my remote on channel 2, and let's run outside so we could see these lights turn on. So you can see there, the shunting mode is online, and these only flash in shunting mode. Now if I enable it and press 5, you can see that it's working. Press 6, and it's working. So that is now giving us the ability to have multiple trains, all set to different modes. So that's good. Now here, we turn on this, we turn on this. Of course, none of our other locomotives are physically attached, but if I set this to channel 4, which is what these were set to, you can see now they're on. So that is good. Like now we have these ones on and they're not interfering with the channels of the shunting mode. And last but not least, if I turn on shunting mode, I should be able to control them all. So if I press 5, and that one is not set to reverse mode, so actually I have to run over there. Remember, if it is facing the other direction, meaning if it's wireless, you have to manually turn on the reverse mode, otherwise it will go in the wrong direction. Now these have paired up, so we're just going to disconnect them, so now they're not getting any feed from this connector, the coupler. Now they're only getting the feed through the wireless mode. So if I press this and press 5, we're moving now. You can see we're slowly moving. I didn't set a high throttle, but it's clear that everything is moving, so we're in the shunting mode. I added a lever that lets you set the throttle. Not sure if I showed that in the last video or not, but up here you actually have a lever. You can turn up the shunting mode all the way to 90% of your throttle, which is a bit of a wild ride. If you are doing that, you will start to go quite fast. and you could obviously turn it down. So depending on what kind of system you need and what you're looking for, that is now available to you. I got a lot of great suggestions from a lot of different people, but the last thing that I sort of wanted to implement was this man overboard system. Other than that, yes, I can beat this thing to death, but I think it's quite functional, quite good, works well, and hopefully will be released soon, as well as other sort of rolling stock that we could use for transportation. So I didn't really want to add the man overboard system as a system with player sensors and all that, but rather what I'm going to do is add it as a system similar to what I've actually heard exists in trains. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but you have to kind of manually check in, otherwise the throttle will stop. So you'll enable the system, and in essence, maybe every 30 seconds you have to press a button, and if you don't, the train's going to stop. So it implies that you've fallen overboard. And then you can run and catch up to it. So it's not going to be an instantaneous stop, but it's more so to prevent something from happening where you fall off and it rolls on forever. Now, what would be nice is if I could implement that button in all the trains or all the locomotives. So, for example, if it starts to beep, that you have to check in, that you could press it even if you're in another locomotive, if you're not in the master locomotive, and it will still reset that system. So it implies you are on board. And likewise, rolling stock, we can put the same system and it'll work. So we don't have a lot of space left in this microcontroller. I know I can ditch certain things if need be. I also could make the second emergency brake just work on an OR system. So there could be optimization here. But ideally, I'd leave it as it is. Also, the flashing light of the shunting mode could just be a pure on light, or I could also have that on a separate system that works. So a little bit of things that can be reduced, but let's see if we can do it with this space of 3 we have here. I made this nice little control panel, and then it hit me, why on earth am I spending all this effort to make this system? Which would work, but I have a big problem right now. When a locomotive is a master, it sends information. When it is the slave, then it sends in, or it receives information. It doesn't send any information. So I'd have to revamp this entire system to make any locomotive that is slaved be sending information, including like when you press the button, it resets the timer. So I thought, okay, fair enough, I could do that, and not the end of the world if I do, but a more realistic system is you walk around this locomotive, and if you fall off, you signal it to stop with your remote. Better yet, why wouldn't I make it with the radio? You can see here how it's activated now, and if I let go, I'm able to turn on that light by just pressing the button on channel 0. So the system is super simple. You don't even need to have composite controllers. All you need to have is this speaker attached to the radio audio connection, and then it goes to the light switch. But let's see if we can't find what exactly this audio data does. Because in here, all we'd need to have then is that audio data. And with that audio data, if you activate channel 0 with the remote controller with the radio, the train toggles its emergency brakes and stops. That's pretty much the gist of it. Of course, you'd have to be holding channel 1 in order to have it completely stop. So it may have to be on a toggle switch, and we may still need a man overboard system that is activated where you can disable this, but we'll see how all that works. So based off this very simple system, I can put this speaker somewhere. So for example, even here with my microcontrollers, doesn't really matter, it just has to communicate to the other rest of the microcontroller, but pretty much I'll attach speaker to the stop radio. I don't even have to put a frequency because I'm just going to use a 0 frequency on that. And then here in this microcontroller, make the man overboard radio doesn't have to happen anymore. All we need to have is the speaker, so man overboard speaker toggle, pretty much. Like, it's just a simple toggle switch really, or push switch, and it'll be an input. And if I go back here, attach that to whether this thing is transmitting or not. Of course, make sure this is attached to electricity. And I'm even going to put it on my circuit A. I want it to always be on, so I could stop it even if for some reason that breaker is turned off. And then in here, you could see that right now it's just this very simple thing. Really what I need to do is have it toggle a system that will then stop the train indefinitely until we remove such toggle. I brought back this instrument panel, and what I've done is now you enable the man overboard system, and then if you broadcast channel 0, it'll stop the train, so this will be green. If you disable the MOB system, then it's going to be disabled, and here is a red light if it is man overboard. The reason for having this, rather than just having an indefinite channel 0 stop the train, is because if you're playing multiplayer, or if you accidentally transmit to channel 0, I don't want the train to come to a stop every single time. It could be very annoying. So I think enabling this, then you'll be aware that this system is on. Yes, I could make it on by default, and then you have an option to disable it, but I just think that it gives you the ability to sort of control what you've done more so than just purely by just having the ability. And maybe you wouldn't even know. If it's a default type thing, one may not know that channel 0 even stops the train. So I've gone ahead and done that, and in that same light, we're going to add our 2 man overboard composites for the instrument panel. MOB. So MOB instrument, and then they're going to be pretty much discussing with this system. One of them is going to for sure be an output, and one is an input. That's fine. So in this case, what I have is, if you've toggled that system, then it's going to register that it is online. So I grabbed the microcontroller from my man overboard system. It used sensors, whereas this one uses this speaker toggle. And then from here is where we're going to toggle the emergency brake. So right now we have this function here. I'm just going to go ahead and add another Boolean function, just so it's a little cleaner, and it'll have X or Y or Z. And then I'm just going to attach these, attach that to this, and over here attach it to this system. So now this is our functioning man overboard system. It should now tell us whether or not it's active. It should tell us whether or not there's man overboard, and we'll see if it works. We'll start by firing up the train, giving it some forward throttle so it's moving. And then you'll see here, if I activate the MOB, man overboard system, and then it says broadcast radio to channel 0 to stop the train. So I turn this on, and now this system is active, the green light. We in theory now could go walk around the train, all that good stuff. Now if we've fallen off, we find our way to channel 0. So you set your radio to channel 0 and press transmit. So I've pressed transmit, and here you have it. The man overboard system has been toggled. The train has come to a stop, and until a time where we come and press this button here, disable, the train will remain stopped. Now yes, the throttle is still set to its full stops, which is fine. I mean, that's all it's doing is wasting gas and generator power. It's getting charged up, so that's fine. And also we didn't manually cut the lever, so it didn't offset that throttle, but what it does do is it prevents the train from moving forward. Now down here on the wheels, you see that the electric motor is still being pushed to throttle, so I may actually have to revamp the system. Anyways, in this case, if we press disable, then the train keeps on rolling forward. So this system It works to some basic extent right now. Of course, you do get that wheel slip, so I'm going to take a look further into the microcontroller, but as a basic system, quite good. And I do like the idea of the radio just because it's kind of realistic. Like, it's like you radioed your buddy and he stops the train. I guess it's as simple as this, and maybe I accidentally disconnected it. When either the emergency brake or this is pressed, we should be sending no power to our motors. So in this case, I think I actually missed that. And right now we should be getting the right system working here. With this correction, if I broadcast to channel 0, the train comes to a stop, the engine's throttled down, and now it's sitting at idle waiting for us to come. Now I do realize you can run and broadcast channel 0, and in theory the train will be stopped only if you're broadcasting, and it'll keep going if you're not broadcasting. But I do prefer this system here, just because it's a little bit more refined and you don't have to run while broadcasting, and then you disable it and you're back to going. So it's almost like you have a buddy that you radio and he stops the train for you, when as pressing this button is like telling said buddy, I'm about to start walking across the train, make sure you stop if I don't, whatever. So there's different ways of doing and solving different problems. I happen to like the approach of having this radio, but I also like the ability to not just constantly stop the train in case there's people wanting to disturb you. If you're playing online and they know you're using my trains and they know that 0 will stop the train, they may abuse that. So having this activate button makes a little bit more logical sense. Also, the fact that it says broadcast radio to channel 0 to stop train means that if you accidentally broadcast to channel 0, you're not going to stop the train. You have to be aware. You're going to press this button and know what you've done. So that sort of works. I think this system is kind of refined, and it is nice to be able to stop the train if you have fallen off. Just make sure you grab that radio. So thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Stay tuned for more creations. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone.